following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Handoff, Elliott plowing to the goal line. Barry, sacked by Lawrence. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
Now, your hosts, Rob Phillips, Heckma Harrison, Danny Sarek, and Kyle Yeomans.
It's another Tuesday edition of Talkin Cowboys as we roll along here in this 2020 Dallas Cowboys offseason, and we're going to break down quite a few moves, actually, that the Cowboys have made since the NFL draft a couple weeks ago. Kyle Yeomans here with our resident Super Bowl champion, Isaiah Stanback. We've got Cowboys insider Rob Phillips and our Swiss Army knife of a analyst in Heckma Harrison. That's probably the best way to describe Heckma, of course. And we are having some technical difficulties with Heckma on the audio side of things, but we'll get those worked out in the next couple of moments. But guys, it's Cinco de Mayo. It's the equinox in terms of the 2020 NFL offseason. 93 days since Super Bowl 54, and it's 92 and a half days pretty much until the August 6th preseason opener of the Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. We're halfway through this offseason, hopefully, but at the same time, there's still plenty to talk about because things just keep on happening, Rob.
Cowboys just keep making moves, don't they? I mean, we talked about it on the show last week that are they done? And obviously they weren't done. They made a couple of signings, and Andy Dalton being the big one that came down over the weekend. And I want to get Isaiah's take on this because he, like you said, he's the resident quarterback of this group. But I just want to say it's not about Dak Prescott. I repeat, It is not about Dak Prescott. You know, look, full disclosure for me, I don't want to see anybody ever lose their job, especially not in the situation that we're in right now across the country, across the world. But from a pure business standpoint, when you look at the Cowboys situation at quarterback, they were going to pay Cooper Rush $2.1 million to probably be the backup quarterback. Andy Dalton now comes in, and if he doesn't play a snap and he's just the backup for Dak, he makes $3 million. And so that's not a huge difference, but you're getting a guy that is a 3-time Pro Bowler, a 9-year starter, and has been around, taking a team to the playoffs in Cincinnati 5 times. I think it was a no-brainer for a guy that wanted to come back to Texas.
Isaiah?
Absolutely. No, this is an awesome pickup. I repeat, this is an awesome pickup. Again, Will and the rest of the crew have done an amazing job over there at the Star. Listen, if you can pick up, like you said, this is not about Dak, right? But if you have an opportunity, your job as a general manager, your job as a head coach, your job as a scout is to acquire the most amount of talent you possibly can on your roster and making sure that you stay underneath the cap. If you can acquire that, right, and you can add a talent level like Andy Dalton onto your depth chart, why would you not? Right? So for everybody that's out there throwing shade and everybody out there that's wondering about Dak is going to get, close to $40 million this year, right? So he's the quarterback, okay? Don't worry about that. Whether it's under the franchise or whether it's underneath a new contract, he's the guy. But you just added somebody who's been to three Pro Bowls, right?
Yes,
Been in
sir.
the playoffs
Yep.
5 times. So somebody who has more experience than your starting quarterback, he's coming in a position where he could just relax. He can be a coach, right? He could be a mentor. And in case something does happen with Dak, that is your best insurance policy you could have possibly gotten in this entire league. So great move by the Cowboys. Awesome job. They just continue making the best decisions.
And I'm glad we're all on the same page in that regard, that this isn't about Dak. And that was going to be a conversation that, at least if somebody disagreed, I was going to throw that out there. Was that even a possibility? I don't think that's the case. I think this is 100% a backup role, and it's a brilliant idea because if you look at last year, the Cowboys would have loved to have a guy like Andy Dalton throwing the football down the stretch whenever Dak was having those shoulder issues, and he had a little bit of a nagging injury that kind of kept him from being 100%. Now you have a guy that if Dak Prescott isn't 100% and he isn't seeing the same kind of success that he would normally have as the Cowboys quarterback, you could pull in Andy Dalton for a drive or two, or kind of switch things up. It opens things up for Kellen Moore even more so, even though you did already do that in the draft with CeeDee Lamb. Now you open it up with the options of backup quarterback. But Isaiah, it kind of brings me to the question of what kind of competition does this cause in the quarterback room? Because now there's 4 quarterbacks. We had 5. Cooper Rush was released over the past couple of days, but you do have 4 quarterbacks with Clayton Thorson in there, Ben DiNucci, the recent 7th-round draft pick, and then Dak Prescott and Andy Dalton, of course, the top 2 in the quarterback room. But what kind of competition, what kind of conversations are going on in that room, Isaiah?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a 3-man show right now. I mean, obviously you got Dak. Dak's the guy, right? I mean, hopefully we can get him signed and get him rolling and be confident in that for however many years, whether it's a 4-year deal, whether it's a 5-year deal going forward. And then you have Andy Dalton, who's the 1-year insurance policy, right? So that's your insurance policy that you can know just in case anything happens to Dak. Any team would prefer to have an experienced playoff Pro Bowl quarterback as the first option, the first line of defense to be able to come in if something happened to your starter. So that's your insurance policy. And then you got DiNucci, who's obviously he's your development guy, right? He's a guy that you picked up that you feel like has some good talent, but he needs some time. And what better guys to learn from than Dak and Andy? So I think that's a great room. It's going to be competitive, right? It should light a fire underneath Dak. Right. Obviously, he knows that he's a guy, but right now he's coming underneath. Unless they get a deal done, he's going to be a 1-year contract guy. Right. Mm-hmm. He's going to be a franchise guy possibly. So if he signs that deal, he's underneath a 1-year contract, and him and Andy Dalton are in the same situation, just for substantially different money. Right. So Andy Dalton's not going to allow for him to really fall off in terms of his production. Right. Not that he would want to anyway, or that he would, because it's a money year for him right now. But Andy Dalton is that guy that you have to look over your shoulder and be like, crap, I got to be on point, because they do have somebody who's proven that I can't fall off, because this dude has shown that he's been able to do this. He can do this, and he's waiting for that opportunity, because Andy Dalton's trying to cash a check in next year somewhere.
Yeah, Isaiah, that's a good point, because he talked about that on Adam Schefter's podcast yesterday, how he's taken a long-term view of his career, and he's trying to set up the last half of his career, and he thinks that this is a good move for him, at least for this year. And he spoke about this too. Look, we're all facing this COVID-19 crisis across the country, and for him, he has a home, he has his family here in the Dallas area. So to not have to pick up and move your family during an uncertain time made sense for him. He said that was a factor. But you're right. Mike McCarthy comes in and he wants to develop the quarterback room. He talked about that before the draft. So Ben DiNucci's one addition, and now you've got a guy in Dalton who says, look, I'm willing to help however I can. I think he understands his role. But it's an interesting move by the Cowboys, because it's a little bit of a departure from what they've done in recent years. I think it's kind of started with Dak. Yeah, they get Dak in the 4th round, and they develop him into a starter, and they feel like, okay, let's go that route with our backups. We can maybe go a little cheaper, but we're proven that we can develop young quarterbacks. It didn't work with Brandon Weeden and Matt Castle, and that's where the departure went. But now, this is, like you said, I think this was just too good an opportunity to pass up for a number 2 guy.
Well, and it does go. Go for it, Isaiah.
In a sense, no problem. I agree with you in the sense that they've stayed away from competition in this particular room for a long time, right? Like genuine, real competition. No disrespect to the guys that have passed, like Weeden, the guys that you've mentioned, right? But this is the first time that they've added anybody that can truly challenge the starter aside from Dak. Right? Aside from Dak. When Dak came in and Dak was the backup to Romo, that was the first time that they really had any talent that could really challenge that starting position. So I think that this is an absolutely awesome move, because it does make that room more competitive. In every other position, if you're going to be competitive, why would you always steer away from it at the quarterback position? You need somebody pushing it in that regard. And we're seeing the same thing kind of happen in Green Bay.
Yeah, you saw that happen in Green Bay with Mike McCarthy at the helm, with Brett Favre, and then, of course, Aaron Rodgers there as well. Now they're doing it again with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, and we'll see how that kind of works out. But I don't think this is a similar situation by any means. Now you're talking about your starting quarterback being 26 years old, and now your backup's 32 and has been to a couple of Pro Bowls and has had a longer career and had 10 seasons compared to 4 seasons of being a quarterback in the NFL. And I like what Rob kind of brought up in the fact of it being the backside of Andy Dalton's career and him setting himself up for success. This is as much of a gamble for Andy Dalton as it is for the Cowboys. And I think that's one of the biggest things moving forward to look at. I believe we have Heckma back with us. Are you here, Heckma?
Man, you guys, you know I'm not made for these technical difficulties, man, at all. And but yeah, I've been listening to you guys trying to get these things, get everything fixed. Look, I don't know. As far as I just wanted to tell you guys about my initial reaction to the Andy Dalton signing, and I thought I hope I thought like everyone else, is that this is just a continuation of the brilliance of the front office signing a guy like Andy Dalton. I mean, for years we've been needing a formidable backup, and we got that. I'm sure Rob and Isaiah has already crossed this bridge. But guys, I just felt as though there was no conspiracy there, and maybe I'm just one of those less woke people. I didn't see the conspiracy. I didn't think that there was anything to the fact that we signed Andy. Only thing I thought was that's brilliant. Brilliant on behalf of Will McClay and Stephen Jones and Jerry. Like I said, the front office just making this decision to bring in a guy that, if all else fails, we know that, look, we have a guy at the backup quarterback position that can win us one game. If you go back to Philadelphia last season, I believe that if we had Andy Dalton healthy in a situation where, Dak Prescott's shoulder is subluxated for the win to go to the playoffs, I think we all trust Andy Dalton could win us a game. But because we had no faith in our backup, we sent Dak out there and he struggled.
Yeah, and I don't know how much the shoulder limited him in that game. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure it did a little bit, but I do think what it did was the lack of practice time seemed to throw off his timing. So either way, I think the injury affected him in the biggest game of the season, trying to make the playoffs. And to you guys' point, I was trying to go back and think of the last time the Cowboys had a backup quarterback that they brought in. Not Tony Romo, who wound up being one by injury, but a guy they brought in that was this accomplished and technically in his prime. I mean, at 32 years old.
Let's say Bernie Kosar, maybe?
Well, I wasn't even thinking about him. Maybe if you go that far back, because Brad Johnson in 2008 won a Super Bowl, but he was 39 years old, and when he played, he didn't play well. And Randall Cunningham in 2000 was 37. So although Dalton had a bad year last year, and really Cincinnati overall had a bad year, it was a tough year for the whole team, I still think he's got a lot of years left. And to Isaiah's point, I think he's a guy that can still play and has an opportunity. Will have an opportunity to play somewhere else next year as a starter, I think.
Yeah, Rob. I mean, to your point, Robbie, you're touching on the fact that last year. So you and Heck both touched on the point that last year, right, with an opportunity to go to the playoffs, Dak was forced to play. He had to play. Yeah. Right? Now you're putting yourself in a situation as an organization where you can tell your starter, right, your franchise QB, hey, chill out, right? Chill out, get healthy. He has it. We have it covered, right? He can win this. He can win this game. He can win this the next game if we need to. We have a starter at backup, a proven starter. Let's not be fooled. Just because Andy Dalton's being a backup this year, he is a starter, right? Yes. That boy's a baller. He's played with some subpar teams and taken them to the playoffs on a continuous basis, right? He's had one premier talent at receiver, right? And he went to the playoffs. Now you're going to come and bring him to a team that's completely loaded, right? So if something was to happen to Dak, you can allow for him to get healthy, tell him to relax, chill out, don't rush back. Let's get you right because we need you for the long haul. Long haul not only this season, but we need you for the long haul for the rest of your career to be here and be our quarterback at Dallas Cowboys. Meanwhile, you're also doing Andy a favor because you can say, hey, get in the game, ball out, show everybody that you can still play, win us these games that we need, right, for this buffer time for Dak to get back, if should that be the case, and then you go out there and get the big bank next year. So it's a perfect situation for everybody.
Yep. Yeah, Isaiah, that's wonderful, and I believe that, man, you're spot on in everything that you're saying. And Rob, I wanted to allude to the Bernie Kosar comparison. In '93 when we won the Super Bowl, we signed Kosar I think after, I believe it was he was released by the Cleveland Browns mid-season, and he comes in and he wins a Super Bowl. He takes one snap, and that was the final snap of the Super Bowl to eliminate the play clock. So, hey, if Andy Dalton is coming on to do that, then let's do it. All right, let's have this. But at the same time, I think another part of the Andy Dalton signing is the fact that we're playing a lot of AFC teams this year, too. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to help Dak Prescott in the fact that we're playing some teams that like the Pittsburgh Steelers, we hadn't played them in, 4 or 5 years, even Baltimore Ravens, a lot of the other AFC competition that we'll be facing. So I think he's going to be an advisor as well, and just eyes and ears for Dak on the field, off the field. And so I look for this to be a great relationship in the quarterback room from a proven veteran that can obviously help improve Dak Prescott's game. That's the only thing I see here. I don't see this as a slight of Dak Prescott. Now, I don't know what the contract numbers are or none of that, and there's been so much speculation about what it is, but at the same time, I think that Andy Dalton, man, the Red Rifle, I'm excited to see him here. Katy, Texas' own. Man, this is good. This is good times to be a Cowboy fan, I tell you.
Well, and Andy Dalton's contract is such a low-risk, high-reward type of thing, $3 million, and then the rest of the contract could get up to $7 million, but that's basically if he ends up going in and playing a ton of the regular season games. If he is just a backup over the course of the 16 games this year, he's going to make $3 million, which is just a fraction more than what Cooper Rush was going to make going into this season as well. But I know all of the things that we're saying are great. And we're saying, hey, this is a backup that can come in and win football games. This is a backup that's going to teach everybody. I want to play devil's advocate here a little bit. Why isn't Andy Dalton a starter right now? Why was he so bad in 2019 that Cincinnati as a team decided to move on? I know they ended up getting a pretty solid little first overall draft pick by the name of Joe Burrow. I'm certain of that. But at the same time, what is wrong with Andy Dalton to the fact that he isn't even in the conversation of being a starter in the NFL?
Well, I don't know that he wasn't. I mean, he talked about on Schefter's podcast that he had multiple options. And, I mean, you can just go around the league and make your guesses. The Patriots need a quarterback. Jacksonville needs a quarterback. Or at least they could bring in a guy that could compete for the job. Yeah. There's some teams out there that I think they would like to have Andy Dalton on their team. Isaiah spoke to it. They haven't always had a ton of talent in Cincinnati. And look, like you said, Kyle, they got the number 1 pick. Joe Burrow is a fantastic talent. They have not won a playoff game since 1990. So they decided it was time to go in a different direction. But Dalton did take them to the playoffs, I believe, his first 5 seasons. And in Cincinnati, that's a franchise that hasn't won a lot of football in their history. So, I think he probably had some options beyond going to a place where he's the clear backup. I bet he could have wound up somewhere to at least compete, even though the fact that it's already May.
Rob, we haven't got any reports yet, but I guarantee you that there is at least 5 teams that Andy Dalton could have walked straight into the room and just became the starter immediately. Let's not forget, this dude's a Pro Bowl quarterback. Yeah. And I'm not talking about no second or third, I just got in because somebody chose not to go to the Pro Bowl type guy. Like, this dude's a legitimate Pro Bowl quarterback. He's a beast now. So understand that in this league, for everybody that's out there listening, there's this thing called stress. Right? And stress will wear you down, right? Whether it's in your regular jobs or whether it's the premier QB for an entire NFL organization. He has been bearing the stress of that organization for 9 years? 9 years now?
9, yeah.
All right? He has been bearing that weight, right? They haven't been good. They haven't surrounded him with talent. He's always had to find a way to make things happen. He's had to deal with his number one resource, right? AJ being injured a lot of times, right? Him having to try to figure out a way to still win games. He has been in a very stressful situation. I'm pretty sure that he's gotten to the point where the game just wasn't that fun for him anymore. Right? And once you start getting to that point, it starts affecting every aspect of your life. It affects your work ethic. It affects your drive. It affects your personality. It affects your moods. It affects your family. Right? So if all that stuff is being, if all those things are in arm's length of becoming just crumbling on you, then guess what? I need a refresher. I need to step back and I need to just reload and get the love back for this game again. Right? So guess what? Let me go home. Right? Where's home? Dallas. Let me go home. Let me get my family situated. Let me make sure that they're stable, make sure that they're happy, because guess what? Happy wife, happy life, right? Take the stress off of myself in terms of being the man and having to always have to put out and have to figure out a way, and all the media is always going to be on me. Now I get to sit back, be in a great organization, an established organization. I get to be on the highlight in terms of, once I leave here, I get to walk into another situation because this is the media capital, right, in terms of football. And guess what? I can just chill, right? And then next year I can go out and I'm a new guy again under a new contract and a new situation, and I can just reload and I can refresh. So I think that's what this is for him. It's absolutely needed. Trust me, I was there in my career. I actually walked away from the NFL because I had got to that point. It wasn't worth it anymore. Right, and I'm pretty sure he's right on that edge, and he's like, man, this is a perfect situation where I can just go and I could chill for a year and then come back ready to go.
Man, the red rifle under stress? I don't know about that, Isaiah. I mean, look, man, there's no better place to be than a quarterback in the NFL. And I mean, look, I'm joking with that, man. I just don't think that, at the end of the day, maybe it had something to do with happy wife, happy life. I think it has more to do with the fact that, look, man, I'm coming to a point in my career where I'm having to reassess and look at things differently, and Dallas is the place to be. It's a perfect opportunity for him. And you're right. I mean, once the story is told that he could have gone to New England, maybe Pittsburgh, some other places to be a backup quarterback, this is the perfect scenario for a guy like him. And look, man, if you just comb the league and look at guys that have been started quarterbacks that then went to be, career backups, there are a ton of guys that have been backups that went on to be head coaches. Maybe those are his aspirations, and this is the perfect incubator for that kind of desire. Look, I just look at it like this. Andy Dalton is a guy that has the capacity to win games still, and he chose to come to a team where he knows that, look, they already have their lead dog. I can help this situation. I see that being the move. And if that had anything to do with the work stress that he was under in Cincinnati, then so be it. I mean, but I look at the first 5 years of his career, the guy, it was a winner, going to the playoffs, he and A.J. Green and a host of other guys with him as well. But over the last 4 years, I mean, that team has been decimated by injuries, and just the front office problems and coaching, it has been a problem in Cincinnati. And so, yeah, man, maybe that's the thing that at the end of the day, he was like, look, I'm sick of all of this, the new coaching situation, us being in the lottery, getting the first pick in the draft had a lot to do with him on his watch as well. So, Kyle, I appreciate you playing devil's advocate in this situation. But look, man, all things being equal, we got a pretty good guy, a pretty good backup for Dak Prescott.
You did, and the thing is he had opportunities early in his career to win football games. He's been in the Cincinnati organization for 9 seasons. He made 5 playoffs, and toward the end, things kind of trickled away and that pitter-pattered down the stretch, but don't get me wrong in playing devil's advocate. This is a good quarterback. This is a guy who's going to be a starter at some point. And the fact that the Cowboys got him on a relatively low money deal, and the fact that it's a low risk, high reward situation, and you can add to a 26-year-old quarterback, I think it's a fantastic signing, whether or not it's Andy Dalton or Cam Newton or anybody else like that. I think Andy Dalton's a better quarterback than Cam Newton, but that's a separate situation altogether. But I will say, going forward, we're going to talk about the fact that there's a new member of the 88 Club, and there's an expectation around CeeDee Lamb. Is it too high going into his rookie season? We'll talk about that coming up next here on Talkin Cowboys.
I'm Jay Novacek, former tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Back in the day, I was the guy who always got the tough yards, and that's why I run with John Deere today. In fact, I have a John Deere 3025E tractor that can handle any yard work I need to do, even the tough yards way out back. So if you have 1 acre or 1,000, John Deere has the equipment that's just right for you. Visit a John Deere dealer today and run with us. We are the official tractor provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Essilor is a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, helping fans see more and do more with our best vision solutions. Our lens technologies reveal a world more beautiful than you can imagine. For a limited time, get the Essilor Next Gen offer. When you buy the latest generation of Transitions lenses with select Essilor lenses, you can choose a second pair of clear lenses for free with qualifying frame purchases. Restrictions apply. Find a participating eye care professional by visiting EssilorUSA.com. Essilor. See more, do more.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys? Jack Black. Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Your new apartment's big. Such a great deal.
It's okay.
Just okay? What's not to...
It's right above the subway!
Well, I bet you don't even notice it after the...
That's my neighbor, Angus.
A deal that's just okay is not okay. Get a great deal with America's Best Network. Come into an AT&T store to find out how to get one of our popular smartphones for $0 down. Based on GWS 1 score, September 2019.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Here's segment number 2 here of Talkin' Cowboys here on a beautiful Tuesday morning. Glad you're with us. Hope you're staying safe out there and staying socially distant. Kyle Yeomans, Heckma Harrison, Rob Phillips, and our Super Bowl champion, Isaiah Stanback. And guys, I have to apologize, and I need to turn things around really quickly and throw the brakes on something I said before I went into my tease. I was trying to go into my tease, but I left out a couple of very crucial words. I said Andy Dalton's a better quarterback than Cam Newton. I meant to say better quarterback for this situation than Cam Newton, because I think when Cam Newton's on the field and he's healthy, I think he's a better quarterback. Andy Dalton's healthy more, but I still think Cam's better. But I just wanted to clear that up. I know Heckma was about to just lose his mind going into that last segment because of what I had said. And I did say the wrong thing, but I meant to say better quarterback for this situation. Is that better, Heckma?
Look, I was going to let you make it with it, Kyle. I really was, man. I was going to let it go, but I appreciate you correcting it.
Well, I'm glad that I was able to clear that up, at least coming out of this next segment. Now, I did want to kind of go into this conversation of a new 88 in town. CeeDee Lamb, of course, selected 17th overall by the Cowboys a couple weeks ago during the 2020 NFL Draft. And the expectations are there, guys. The fact that he's the best receiver potentially in the 2020 draft. But I kind of wanted to add maybe a question mark here. You're adding the number 88, and I know it's just a jersey number. I know it's a whole big lore. It's going to sell some extra jerseys. But the fact that you're putting that number on a rookie, I just kind of want to get your conversation piece here. And Isaiah, you're the only one that's had a number in the NFL. Is there anything to it, the fact that there's that 88 lore of guys like Dez Bryant, Drew Pearson, Michael Irvin that have worn that jersey before you and carried on a legacy?
Chris, mute your mic.
I'm probably the wrong person to ask this question to because I have never been attached to numbers, right? I'm always been the guy who would like, give me a number.
Never, Isaiah.
I will make my make of it whatever I can based upon my performance, right? So the fact that the owner of the organization that you just got drafted to is saying, "Hey, you're wearing this jersey." Right? And I know you want to wear number 10, but you're wearing Uncle Drew's number, you're wearing Michael Irvin's number, you're wearing Dez's number. This is what you're doing. I think that there is some pressure that's applied to that, right? And there's pressure that he's not applying to himself. There's pressure that literally that Jerry is throwing on his shoulders before he can even show up in town. So he is going to have to perform based upon Jerry's expectations, right? Not only his expectations as a first-round pick, but his expectations of what that number symbolizes for this organization. So there is weight. Let's not kid ourselves. There's weight that comes with that, but I don't want him to apply that pressure to himself. I hope that he can just come out here, ball out like he knows how to do, play free. But there's going to be that population, including the person who writes his checks, that are expecting that type of performance that comes with that number.
And Isaiah, real quickly, kind of based off of what you were saying, you're talking about the owner's expectations, and you're talking about the expectation of wearing 88. What are those expectations? And that's kind of where I'm leading this question, because 88, I mean, I mentioned the 3 names already. It's either Hall of Fame or Hall of Fame caliber for a good amount of time type of production here. Is that the expectation that's put on him from Jerry Jones?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. I mean, it sucks for him, right? It sucks for him. But, like I said, hopefully he can just come in and just not even think about it. He's going to continually get reminded about it, but he really needs to just come in and play free. That is the expectation. Let's not kid ourselves. 88 bears weight. Uncle Drew was a beast. Mike was a beast. Dez was a beast. Unfortunately, his career kind of got cut short, but, he was on that path as well. And, I think that CeeDee will come in and take care of business. It's not fair to put that kind of pressure on somebody. I think that probably Dallas is probably one of the few spots in the entire league where a number has that much significance at a particular position. So, he's going to have to deal with it, but he'll be all right.
Yeah, there's some numbers in this franchise that just don't get reused. 88's not one of them. 8 seems to be one of them. 22 seems to be one of them. I'm with Isaiah. When you get 88 here, though, it's Michael Irvin, because Michael Irvin is talking about it in the media now this week, talking about what it means. So immediately it restores the tradition and the memories and what that number has been associated with. Drew Pearson as well, Des Bryant. I will say that coming into this situation, he doesn't have to be the savior of this offense. He doesn't even have to be the top 2 wide receivers. The top guy is making $20 million a year. He just needs to come in. And that's Amari Cooper. CeeDee just needs to come in and fill his role. And I think based on the talent of this offense, I think that eases some of the pressure, Absolutely. Even though clearly 88, it's always linked to greatness, basically.
Yeah, man. For me and my generation, man, 88 is all Michael Irvin. Everybody knows Drew Pearson wore it before Mike and set the standard for 88. But, man, you talk about the pressure, right? You talk about the pressure and the number, and the Cowboys have had those numbers that no one will wear 12, 22, other numbers that we know are legendary numbers. But 88 is synonymous with greatness at the wide receiver position, just like 54. All of these numbers are reminiscent. And if you look through the halls of the Dallas Cowboys, these numbers mean something. If you look at other teams, 75 means something in Pittsburgh, right? And so we talk about the pressure that CeeDee Lamb may be under. But the truth of the matter is, look, he was going to be under pressure whether he wore 10 or whatever number he wore. And so, like the saying goes, pressure busts pipes or makes diamonds. Guys, Exhibit 8, we got a diamond right here. And so this should be nothing for CeeDee Lamb. He walks into a situation tailor-made for a young guy where there's already dogs there to help him and groom that talent. All he has to come in and do is play ball, and he's going to look beautiful in those 2 8s on his back.
And what I didn't realize, Heck, was that I think 12 guys have worn the number. Like Jackie Harris wore the number in 2000, wore 88. Antonio Bryant, when he got drafted in, I think, 2002.
Antonio Bryant,
But, there's only 3 guys you ever associate it with. And for good reason, right?
Of course.
Now, it does kind of help, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier. I think both Isaiah and Heckma touched on it. Oh, and Rob touched on it too, so all 3 of you. But the fact that you don't have to come in and be the star, even though that number is associated with being a star, that's not the expectation year 1. It might be year 3, 4, 5, potentially, but year 1, you're coming into an offense that has Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper, and you're able to open things up. We haven't seen an NFL season that has had an individual team that's had 3 separate 1,000-yard receivers since, I believe, 2008 when the Cardinals did it. Is there an opportunity the Cowboys even have a chance to reach that kind of mark where we have 3 separate 1,000-yard receivers and then also have touches for your running back and Ezekiel Elliott and then also maybe even some receptions for Blake Jarwin?
Absolutely. The NFL is wide open now. This is a passing league. And so it's about time that we see that 3,000-yard receivers on the same team and also a potential Hall of Fame running back. I'm putting that pressure on Ezekiel Elliott. But, guys, that's the kind of team that we have, and that's how fast we're going to play. If you look at Mike McCarthy and what he did in his tenure at Green Bay, he liked to liked to play up tempo, pace, and passing the ball around. So I see the same thing being added here at the Dallas Cowboys with how we're going to play tempo and pace in the passing game. So that's foreseeable for 3 receivers to have 1,000 yards.
I don't know, Heck. You know,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I know.
Heck, I know you've been over there playing Madden. You know what I'm saying? You guys are all 99.
Yes.
I normally ride with you, but I can't ride with you on this one, man. A 3,000-yard receivers is crazy. Right,
it's a lot.
It is a lot.
Isaiah, let me ask you this. Isaiah. Last year, how many yards did Cobb have? I think Cobb finished with 800 yards, 800 combined for the season. I mean, he was 160 away from being a 1,000-yard receiver. So look, that's the same. You take out some of those drops, he's there. And so we might have had that last year if you just look at the numbers from Gallup and Cooper. Okay. So I'm just saying, it's not like I'm far off, man.
I feel you. However,
okay,
there's more weapons this year significantly than there was last year. Just straight up off the draft alone, right? You have absolutely you have two. You got a dog at running back, right? You have a tight end that you think has some go juice. Right, you got Coop, who you're paying him over $1 million a game. He's gonna get the rock every game, right? You're gonna force him the ball. He's getting force fed. He can be as quiet as he wants to. He's gonna get the ball at least 7 to 10 attempts a game, right? And then you got CeeDee that's gonna be on the inside. You got Gallup on the other side. You have 5 guys that you have to spread the ball out to, right? If you really wanted to say, you could take away your tight end and you could take away Gallup, right? There's still 3 guys that you are going to be force feeding the ball to. It is going to be hard for those guys all to get the proper amount of touches while still maintaining the main goal, which is what? Move the ball, move the sticks, get touchdowns.
Yes.
Right? It's not going to be focused on one guy getting the ball. It's going to be spread out. Whoever's open gets the rock. Hopefully that's the way it is. And it's going to be hard for guys to eat like that. So what you're hoping for is that everybody can perform well. You don't need anybody to perform great. You don't need it, right? You just need everybody to perform well. And that's the positive side about having all this talent on one team and being able to take down that pressure by position.
Heck just got me rethinking that hypothetical right there when I looked it up. Randall Cobb did have 828 yards last year.
Yeah,
that was approaching 1,000. But I'm with Isaiah. That seems tough to accomplish, especially if Zeke is going to be heavily involved, like Mike McCarthy says he still will be. And remember, this defense has made some good additions, and they're trying to revamp things. But you may want to lean on your running game some to try to protect your defense in some games this year. So the more you do that, the less opportunities you've got to really spread it around, even though there's no question they've got the potential to be a wide-open passing offense.
And while we're throwing in last season as the comparative season of trying to get 3,000-yard receivers, I don't know if you want that, to be fair. And kind of going back to Rob's point, you want your running back to have touches. You don't want to be 8-8 and behind in games to the fact that you're trying to throw the football late and get these guys open. Sure, they're going to be open because they're 3 stud wide receivers, and they're going to find their way open. They're going to have their fair share of production, but you don't necessarily want all 3 of those guys just getting the ball thrown to them as much as they had. Dak had a 4,900-yard passing, 4,900-yard passing season last year. The fact that you even had that was because you were behind late in games and you were throwing the ball when you didn't really want to. I'm not saying that the running game is the primary focus here, but it's a focus that's going to help you win football games and help you close out games late instead of throwing the football, and it's going to help you move the sticks and, like Rob said, help your defense at the same time, and it's still a defense that has some holes.
That sounds fun, Kyle, doesn't it?
It does sound fun.
Kyle. Now, I thought you were the vice president of Team 40 Burger. What happened to you, bro?
I wasn't necessarily on Team 40 Burger unless CeeDee Lamb was involved. That was the thing, is I just didn't believe CeeDee Lamb was going to fall to 17, so I took myself out of Team 40 Burger. I'm running a half marathon because of it in a couple of days. So the fact that I was even a part of Team 40 Burger was solely based on the falling of CeeDee Lamb to 17. So even with that being said, you gotta have the balance between the two. You have a $90 million running back in the backfield, and Tony Pollard, who I think is an underdog in this statement as well. I think Tony Pollard's going to have a great year in terms of coming out of the backfield, opening things up for an offense that's going to see more of a modern look. So I think with the combination of Zeke and Pollard in the backfield, along with these wide receivers, is more exciting than let's just throw the ball everywhere.
Yeah, I know you're still the president. Go ahead, Isaiah.
No, I just say you're absolutely right, Kyle. I mean, but I want everybody to remember that the whole intention of the offense is to move the sticks, right? Consume time, move the sticks, right? And that's the premise, right? It's not about having these receivers that go off and have, these 250-yard, 200-yard games. You don't need it, right? Is it nice to talk about? Yeah, it gives us a lot of material to come out here and talk about, but you don't need it. If you have guys and where you have 3 receivers that all had, 5-6 catches, 75 yards, 80 yards, that's awesome, because that means that Zeke has about 2 touchdowns, tubbing the thing back there. Dak might have it. So you want a well-balanced offense, and you want an offense that has threats at every position, that you can't key in on guys, you can't double-team guys. You want it so that defenses can't win, and that's really what you're aiming for, and I think that's what McCarthy has done along with Will and the rest of the squad. So hats off to them. I don't think we need a 1,000-yard receiver. Can we get it? Heck, yes, we could. If we really want to have a 1,000-yard receiver, we can have one. We should have one with somebody getting paid over $1 million a game. So, yes, we could have it, but it's not necessary with this particular offense.
Isaiah, you, like I said, man, if you look around at the NFL right now and you look at the way these defensive schemes are DBs are playing off of receivers, man, when you were here at the Cowboys, the guys were playing you that far off the ball, man, you still be playing, Isaiah. So, I mean, you look, that's the way the NFL is going these days. Yeah. And so, I mean, it's fast, it's a fast place, and yes, Kyle, you make a great point. Dak Prescott, 4,900 yards, throwing on the year. You don't want that. If you look at those numbers universally all over the league, that typically is an indicator that you had a bad season. You were playing from behind. But that may not be the case anymore in this new NFL. We win one game, and I know if we win the game in Philly, that same offense goes into the playoffs. And then what are we saying? Is that the new model for success in the NFL? I don't know. It's just hard to throw that away, especially as quick as we're going to be able to strike at all 3 wide receiver positions and also with our running back. I'm the person, I love the 3 yards in a cloud of dust philosophy, but I do understand things have changed and offenses are wide open now. They get the ball out of your hand, get the ball out of the quarterback's hands early, and they are striking. I mean, you look at Kansas City's offense, they're a 75-yard play waiting to happen. Everybody is emulating that. And so, look, that's what get the people in the seats, and that's what the fans are clamoring for, and that's what we're going to give them.
That's fair, but, what we talked about on past shows is with the weapons they have in the passing game and the ability to spread them out, that should help Zeke. That should create running lanes for him and allow him to basically create that pick your poison offense. Like I think based on having those guys on the outside in the slot, you can be more balanced instead of being just one particular way. I think it actually helps the overall offense, but it is fun to think about. I didn't know that 2008 was the last time, or the Cardinals were the last team to do it. That's cool. That's cool. That is Madden numbers right there. There's no doubt about that.
It's Madden numbers, and you got to have the combination. You got to have the balance between the 3 yards in a cloud of dust, like Heckman just said, and the lightning in a bottle, the quick strike ability. And I think the Cowboys have the opportunity to do both. But if you're going to have a good offense, you need a good defense as well. And the Cowboys have continued to add some of that defensive talent over the course of the offseason. But are they done yet? I don't think they're done yet. We're going to talk about that when we come back after a quick break here on Talkin Cowboys.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys, and your favorite football team. Get yours today in the Stadium Pro Shop or at Stetson.com.
Your new apartment's big. Such a great deal.
It's okay.
Just okay? What's not to...
Right above the subway!
Well, I bet you don't even notice it after the...
That's my neighbor, Angus.
A deal that's just okay is not okay. Get a great deal with America's Best Network. Come into an AT&T store to find out how to get one of our popular smartphones for $0 down. Based on GWS 1 score September 2019.
Essilor is a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, helping fans see more and do more with our best vision solutions. Our lens technologies reveal a world more beautiful than you can imagine. For a limited time, get the Essilor Next Gen offer. When you buy the latest generation of Transitions lenses with select Essilor lenses, you can choose a second pair of clear lenses for free with qualifying frame purchases. Restrictions apply. Find a participating eye care professional by visiting EssilorUSA.com. Essilor. See more, do more.
So, you're shopping, and that's when you see it. Aisle 23. Dr. Pepper stacked from top to bottom as far as the eye can see. The phrase too good to be true comes to mind, yet there it is. A rich, delicious Dr. Pepper paradise. Wait, did that can of Dr. Pepper just open itself for you? They all are. As if to say, so nice to treat you. And even though it feels weird to talk to a can, you pick one up and say, it's so nice to be treated. Dr. Pepper, so nice to treat you.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Back here for the final segment of Talkin Cowboys here on this Tuesday morning. Glad you're with us. Before we get into this final segment, I do want to remind you about how the Cowboys, who are celebrating their 60th birthday, are doing so with Main Event virtual birthdays. The party doesn't stop just because we're all virtual. We know you all have birthdays to celebrate, and Main Event is here to help. They have a new platform called Birthday With Me. We've talked about it in the past. Celebrate from your own home on Instagram each day at 2 p.m. Cakes, candles, happy birthday singing, everything that you need for the party. So follow Main Event on Instagram. Tune in to their live story every day at 2 p.m. Central Time to celebrate with others. Main Event still keeping things normal, keeping things fresh throughout these crazy times. Hope you're staying safe out there. Final segment, though, here of Talkin Cowboys. Heckma Harrison, Isaiah Stanback, Rob Phillips. I'm Kyle Yeomans, and I mentioned this going into the last break, guys, but the Cowboys continuing to add talent on defense. And before we get into the fact that I don't think they're done adding talent just yet, I want to talk about Daryl Worley, corner, third-round pick back in 2016, a relatively young corner, but with starting experience. 49 of his 56 games played have been starts. 5 interceptions over 4 seasons in the NFL. He has been added to this defense, and Rob, it kind of adds to the shift that we're starting to see in this secondary for the Cowboys and Mike Nolan, just wanting these longer, athletic corners to go along with guys like Trayvon Diggs as well.
First off, a happy early birthday to you.
Oh,
based on your live read that you just had. Yes, Kyle Yeomans.
Appreciate it.
Tomorrow.
21.
21 years
Turning
old.
21, baby.
Woo! To your point, talking about DBs, we got off the show last Tuesday, and Will McClay, VP of Player Personnel, did a call with the media and talked about that very point. And this is kind of to Heckman's point last segment, with the way offenses are now, spreading out, getting bigger, faster receivers. They want guys that can play press coverage, especially with what they want to try to do defensively. Guys that can disrupt receivers at the line of scrimmage. They felt like the runs on corners kind of went a little differently than normal in this particular draft, and they were able to get Diggs and Robinson maybe later than they should have gone. And so then you add Worley, a guy that's 6'1", 215. He just continues that philosophy. He's a press guy. He's a physical corner, and I thought it was interesting that he played safety for the Raiders for a couple games at the end of last season, just because they needed. I think they cut DJ Swearinger, and they needed a guy to step in there. So once again, this is another guy that can come in and play multiple spots for you on defense.
You know what, boy, Rob, I just want to choke you sometime when you take my points like that, man. I swear. You do it so effortlessly. But that's what I think the same about Worley and his ability. And you talked about the presser for Will McClay. And also before, I believe Mike McCarthy was talking about some of these guys, some of the picks and some of the guys that we have in the DB room being able to convert to safety. And Worley is that guy that we got that can be a tweener or a hybrid corner safety as well. And so I look for him because of his experience to be added to that already a lot of depth in that DB room. But he's a guy that is going to be able to benefit these younger guys, be a benefit to these younger guys, but also make a contribution no matter where you put him. And again, for us, and what I've been, just clamoring over is the fact that we need a special teams dog. We need more guys that can come in and contribute because that's where we suffered. I see Worley as being a guy that can contribute there as well. But no matter what, he's that hybrid guy that can play safety and in corner.
Heck, when this is all over, man, I can't wait to get back in studio. You can get your hands on me. I can't wait.
Oh, man. It's all good.
Man, I can tell you right now. I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to keep saying it. Al Harris. Harris, this dude is over there river dancing right now. They continue.
Would you care to give us an exhibition, Isaiah, of the river dance that you believe Al?
I'll give it to you. But no, these guys, they just keep adding the perfect size corners. These guys are. We talked about last week. We talked about guys that are attitude. We talked about guys that had a little nastiness to them. This dude is a pest. Right? He's 6'1", 215. I don't know if y'all know this out there. That is a sizable corner. That's not just a tall, skinny corner. That's a corner that has some weight to him. He's not moving, right? And we keep talking about that front seven and how solid of a front seven we've been able to put together. If those guys are adding pressure, they're pushing the pocket, and you're able to disrupt a receiver at the line of scrimmage, it is going to suck for offenses. Routes have to be so pristine. Routes have to be so on point for guys to even remotely get open because you have a 6'1" dude that has E-Honda hands that is punching you in your doggone chest at the line of scrimmage and not letting you get your timing right, and you have those guys up front. It is the perfect scenario for everybody that's coaching this defense. The Cowboys, listen, I know we're talking a lot about offense. We're going to be talking a lot more about their defense unexpectedly because these dudes are going to have some problems.
Isaiah, what did you say? He's doing the river dance?
Yeah.
Hey, here's my question.
Go ahead.
Now, my question though, based on that philosophy of those big corners, like, can Jordan Lewis catch a break? I mean,
yeah,
because he doesn't fit that role. He's 5'10", whatever he is, and like Isaiah said, like he's got some dog in him. That guy is a competitor back there, but I don't know what this means for him in terms of his role if that's what they prefer, those bigger, longer corners.
Well, and you also can
go ahead, Kyle.
Go for it, Heckma.
No, I was just saying that Jordan Lewis is one of my favorites. I think that he's so he's a tough guy. It's unfortunate that he got injured. But again, Anthony Brown stepped in and played really well until he got injured as well. I mean, but this has given us these guys that are maulers at the line of scrimmage, and that is who Worley is. He comes in with that tough North Philly attitude, and a guy that also has some things in his background as well, looking to make a fresh start. He was able to get that with the Raiders, but again, you're right when you talk about Al Harris and the group that he has. I mean, he has a bunch of guys that are salty, and he knows that. And I look forward to this Cowboy defense, especially on the back end, just being a bunch of guys that are going to be flying around trying to get those interceptions and take it to the house. And just the size alone of our defense, where we went from shorter guys up front, maybe smaller guys at the DB position. Just look at how much bigger this team has gotten in a very short period of time.
Well, and I think it also. I think it speaks to the switch to what maybe Mike McCarthy and Mike Nolan are thinking with some of these corners going to the safety spot. And I know Cheeto Awuzie has been thrown into that conversation. I don't know if he would be better, if Jordan Lewis would be better for a switch there. And I kind of wanted to get you guys' opinion on this. But if they were to take some of these true corners and move them to safety, who would be the best to fit that role just because they don't necessarily fit the role of a longer corner?
I think Cheeto's going back there. I said it a couple weeks ago. I think they're moving Cheeto back there. I mean, they got Cheeto and they got Ha-Ha. right? And we talked about how they're not going to have to be true safeties in terms of being able to come in and rotate down and fill the box. They're not going to have to do that. Our boys up front are going to take care of that. I need people to really recognize how serious of a front seven we have right now, right? And like I said, even if we get one of those guys, right, it doesn't matter which guy comes off of suspension. If we get one of those guys, that front seven is stacked, right? If we can keep Lee healthy, then that's even more of a problem, right? But those guys are literally all they need to be is ball hawks, right? You're going to put 2 6'1" guys out there on the edges to put hands on guys' chests as soon as they come off the line of scrimmage. Every single play, they're going to have their hands on somebody's chest, so that's half a second gone that's disrupted their route running. And then you got those guys over the top that have speed, that are long, that are rangy, that can go sideline to sideline just in case the ball gets thrown up there. So these guys aren't going to have to come up here and lay the big stick. They don't have to knock nobody out. You don't need Earl Thomas. You don't need a Cam Chancellor. You need these guys that can run around and snag these balls that are going to be thrown up there because of this front sevens pushing the pocket, and quarterbacks are going to be making these indecisive throws.
And I think that Jordan Lewis is going to have a bit of a role still in that defense. I mean, the fact that he's better in the slot, I mean, that's going to come up. Look what Philadelphia did with their first overall pick, or their first round pick. Jalen Reagor, slot receiver from Waxahachie and TCU. He's going to have some good games, or somebody good to cover throughout the course of the rivalry with Philadelphia, and then also any of the other 16 games. And I think Lewis fits better in the slot. But Isaiah, you kind of went back to the front seven, and I agree. I think the front seven is better this year than it was that last year, and I think they've continued to upgrade those spots. But I was asked last week on 105.3 The Fan, and our friends over there, they asked me, what's the biggest hole on this Cowboys team so far? And I didn't really know how to answer it originally. I was thinking either left guard or right defensive end. And the only reason I lean toward right defensive end is because it's a huge if still. If Aldon Smith and Randy Gregory, either one of those guys get reinstated, sure, it'll help out. I'm still not totally sold on either one of those guys. One hasn't been in the league for a multitude of years. The other one hasn't necessarily produced as much as you would think for a guy that had his caliber coming out of college. So I bring that question to you. Right defensive end, could you still add some spots to there? Because you've already grabbed Bradley and I, but is there anybody else that you could go out and potentially grab? And I'm not necessarily saying a Jadeveon Clowney or a Griffin or anybody like that, just something else depth-wise to that right defensive end spot.
I think you definitely add some depth. I mean, you never can. I mean, obviously, these guys are focused on adding depth at every position, regardless of the competition. So I think we definitely can add some more depth there. Do I feel like that's a hole? No, I don't believe that's a hole. I think we're going to get one of those guys off of suspension. I think we're going to be perfectly fine up there. I do want to add another linebacker. I want to add another linebacker because, obviously Lee, like me, has had, injury issues. Some things you just can't prevent, but we need somebody to fill that position just in case, right? I think that if he's not in there, I think there's going to be a substantial hole there, and you need somebody that has the stature and then has the drive as Jalen Smith and Van Der Esch. I think you need some guys like those guys that are going to fulfill that role to be able to run and fill those gaps. Because those are some big dudes that are moving at a high rate. So I think you can't afford to lose at that position. The offensive line, I'm not worried about that either. I think we're good there. So yes, we can add another in just for insurance policy, but I prefer to add another linebacker at this point.
I agree. I was thinking linebacker too when you guys were talking, and it kind of depends on what the new staff thinks about some of the young guys that are on this roster that we don't maybe know yet. Because Luke Gifford's a guy that flashed before he got hurt last year at linebacker. Maybe they're high on him. What do they feel about Dorrance Armstrong and Jalen Jelks? Some of the
I was thinking about Jelks.
Yeah, Joe Jackson, guys they drafted last year. We're not really sure. So those are young players that they thought had promise last year, but it just depends on if you bring in a new coaching staff and what they think of those guys.
Yeah. I think a lot of the story is starting to come together on what they think about guys based off of the free agents that they're bringing in. And so I just believe that when to your question, Kyle, about how we feel about, implementing new guys to the deep right end or offensive line, I believe that those questions are there for the defensive, for the right end position because of what we lost and what's hanging in the balance for guys getting reinstated. So, look, all things I just feel as though we are in a position in a very positive position with Alden Smith and Randy Gregory being reinstated, and all of those things happening. I believe that you feel comfortable going into the season with the 9, Gregory and Smith, and fighting it out during two-a-days. But with a team like this, you can never have enough guys at the linebacker position. I mean, with the way if they're going to play that 3-4-4-3 hybrid, those are the positions, DBs, linebackers, that you're going to have to be trump tight on those. And so you see the Cowboys getting all those DBs, but obviously they're satisfied with the guys that they have at the linebacker position. And also, if you're going to make any moves, look, you can be patient with that, because there are going to be a number of guys that I said last week. There are going to be a number of guys that are going to be cut. Free agency is going to ramp back up here in a minute, and you may have an opportunity to get a guy that you may not necessarily thought would have been that have landed to you.
Well, when we talked about it last week, we didn't think the Cowboys were done. We thought they were going to add a couple of guys. They did just that. Daryl Worley was signed a couple hours after we got off the air last Tuesday, and then you turn around and Andy Dalton is now a Dallas Cowboy as well. I don't think they're done. I think they're still adding, and I think we're going to have maybe somebody to talk about next week. That's a new Dallas Cowboy heading into next Tuesday. But that's going to do it for this Tuesday's edition of Talkin Cowboys. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody out there, and hope you're staying safe, staying indoors, and we continue to push toward football. But for now, for Heckma Harrison, for Isaiah Stanback, and for the great Rob Phillips, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long. Thanks for listening and watching some Talkin Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!